Usually on my channel, we're talking about professional athletes such as LeBron James or Kevin Durant. Today's video is going to cover a very common injury, but the person that it relates to isn't exactly a professional athlete. Welcome back, everybody. For those new, my name's Brian and I'm a doctor and a sports fan, and it's my goal in this channel to combine those interests to help explain different sports injuries and sports medicine topics in a way that you can better learn from and understand. This video is going to be focused on hamstring strains, and yes, the inspiration for this came from what happened with Logan Paul. Now, before any of my usual viewers turn this video off because of that, I'd encourage you to watch it because we're really gonna focus a lot more on the hamstring injury itself. And there's a lot of interesting things I hope I can teach you, specifically about the bruising pattern that we see on the skin and why bruises look the way they do and how they change colors over time. Now, if you wanna see my opinion on whether or not this particular injury was real or if it was faked, make sure you stick around to the end because we'll be addressing those questions as well. Make sure you guys subscribe if you like this type of content and want to stay up to date in the future. Let's get started. When I saw these photos and the videos of Logan Paul showing off the bruises on the back of his leg, that's what really made me want to talk about this for a video topic. We'll get to the bruises in a second, but quick overview about the anatomy of the hamstring so that you kind of understand the muscles involved here. There's three key muscles to think about. We have the semitendinosus, the semimembranosus, and the biceps femoris. So there's not just one big hamstring muscle. There's actually three kind of key muscle groups that provide this knee flexion activity in the back of the leg. These muscles originate up on the ischial tuberosity, and that's the kind of hard sit bone you can feel underneath your bottom, and then they go down and they insert below the knee. A hamstring strain occurs whenever there's some tearing in those muscle fibers or around the tendon that's inserting into the bone. This is what leads to the bruising that you can see, and like we saw in the case of Paul. When that strain occurs, the tiny blood vessels that are within the muscle and around that muscle tear and break, releasing blood into the subcutaneous tissue, or that area of tissue beneath the skin. The initial stages of a bruise usually result in more of a red and swollen look on the skin. This is because that blood that's leaked out of those vessels hasn't had a chance yet to be broken down by the body. But in the first couple days after an injury like this, cells in your body come along and start to break down and degrade that blood that's leaked underneath the skin. There's a big protein inside blood called hemoglobin, and this is the protein that's responsible for carrying oxygen in those blood cells throughout the body. Inside that hemoglobin is a lot of iron, and it's the breakdown of this iron that causes a bruise to have different colors based on the duration of how long the bruise has been there. Once the cells start to break down that hemoglobin, it releases that iron. This causes the bruise or the skin color to turn that deep blue and purplish color, usually up to about 2 to 5 days after the injury. The next stage of breakdown of that iron is a product called biliverdin, and that has more of a green color. So then the bruise starts to evolve into more of a greenish type of hue. This typically occurs by about a week, and then the second phase turns the bruise more yellow when this degradation continues and forms something called bilirubin. This is around 7 to 10 days or so after the initial injury, and then the final breakdown product has more of a brownish tint to it, and this is by around 1 to 2 weeks. By about 2 to 4 weeks, that bruise should go away as the body's had a chance to break down those blood products in that space. Let's talk now about whether or not I thought this could be a real injury or believe some of the rumors that it was just faked. I'm first going to talk about the things in favor of it being a real injury, and then talk about the points that make me question the legitimacy of it. First off, the things that line up with this being a true injury. We saw from previous videos that he appeared to have been dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury going into this race. Anytime the hamstring has been injured and it's not fully recovered, it's susceptible to tearing again. The second piece of evidence comes from the actual photos and video clips that we saw him post about the color of the bruise and how it's changing. This first photo was posted about 2 days after the injury, and the color pattern of the bruises here fits perfectly with the time course that we would expect after a hamstring injury like this. It's got that kind of deep purplish color, but there's still some components of that early redness from the injury. Also, if we watch here as he's rolling over, you can see how there's some discoloration in that area of the calf below the knee. This all makes sense because as that blood collects under the skin, gravity is going to cause some of it to drain down. And so it's not uncommon to have an injury to your hamstring all the way high up beneath the bottom, but then have bruising all the way down the leg because that blood has kind of drained down. We then saw a more recent video where it looks like the color has gotten even more deep purple, more dark blue, and expanded a little bit. This again would fit with the natural evolution of a bruise. The other key here is it looks like his leg is clearly swollen compared to the right one. Because of that collection of blood in that space and that fluid from a possible hamstring injury, that's going to cause that leg to be more swollen, and it certainly looks to me like it is swollen. The key thing to watch for though is how this bruise changes colors. We would completely expect that it'll start to turn more green, then become yellow, and then have more kind of brownish parts to it. Now, it's not one full continuous process where the entire bruise turns green, then the entire bruise turns yellow, but we should start seeing parts of it evolve color over the coming days and in the coming week or two. Now for you conspiracy theorists, the reasons why it's a little more suspect what happened. First off, the actual footage of the race itself. Paul comes up out of the blocks, and there's really not a single part in this race where he seems to hold up and kind of grab and reach back at his hamstring, implying something got torn. A hamstring injury that would cause this much severe bruising is probably a pretty severe injury. It doesn't really seem like there's even the slightest bit of flinching or kind of catch or holding up, implying that it might have gotten torn. At one point, we even see him look back like he's looking for someone else to come, and then he kind of suddenly hobbles and kind of limps up. You guys probably remember one of the more famous videos of a runner tearing their hamstring. It was actually at the Olympics where their dad came out and helped him get to the finish line. Looking quickly at that, we can see a clear time where once that hamstring goes, it's almost an instinct to kind of reach back around your hamstring and grab that area where you felt a pop or kind of felt a snap. It really doesn't look like this happened at all, and so that makes it a little harder to say, well, when exactly during this race it might have occurred. Now, it's possible it was bothering him from the very start and there wasn't a specific moment where it went. It was just kind of that repetitive running that ultimately got to the point where it wasn't able to go anymore. The second thing is, I know I talked about the bruising color, but the bruising pattern is a little bit unique as well. It would be pretty expected to see bruising kind of along the entirety of the back thigh because, like I said, some of that blood is going to pool down and drain from gravity. The fact that there's a big space in the middle of the back of the thigh is a little bit interesting. You might think, well, what if he tore it in two different places? And this would be pretty rare. Usually once that first weak point goes, you're not gonna be able to tear it in another place again. Go Google other photos of bruising after hamstring injuries and you'll see what I mean. There's usually bruising along the entirety of the back of the thigh, not just in these two isolated spots at the top and at the bottom. So I don't really know. The doctor in me says, yeah, of course I'm gonna believe him. Of course he probably injured his hamstring pretty bad. But the realist in me understands kind of the entertainment side and everything that's wrapped up in this. And so hopefully presenting these kind of two sides will let you make your own opinion. Either way though, I wish him the best. If this is a true bad injury, I hope he's able to recover. Based on that bruising, it looked like it could be pretty severe. We'll see as more information comes out and as we watch the evolution of the bruise, so to speak. But hopefully you guys learned something here about hamstring strains and just why bruises have the color they do and why they change color over time. Thanks as always for watching, everybody, and until next time, we'll see you later.